Today's lesson covers section 4.1, which is about inequalities. So look at your notes and let's fill these out together. An inequality is a mathematical sentence, just like we have sentences in language arts. It compares expressions and it contains these symbols. So fill these in. This symbol is less than, or we have is greater than. We also have is less than or equal to, and is greater than or equal to. Those are your main symbols. I also wanted to introduce this symbol right here, which means is not equal to. We will not be doing a lot with that symbol in this chapter, but I wanted you to be aware of it. Something to help you remember is less than is if you take a capital L and kind of squint it down, it looks like the less than sign, which starts with an L. So that's a tip to help you remember which one is less than. Now, there's some key words that can help you remember. You have this table in your notes. To write inequality, you need to look for the following phrases to determine where to place the inequality symbol. So the first symbol you have that you need to fill in is less than. Is less than can just be written is less than or is fewer than. Those are some keywords. In the next column, you want to fill in greater than. You can just say that is greater than or is more than. Those are keywords. The next one you want to fill in is less than or equal to with that line underneath it. This one's pretty clear, is less than or equal to, but this one seems to give us a hard time. This one says is at most. Now when you think most, you sometimes think greater than, but it actually means if it's at most that, it would be that or smaller, so that is less than. Another key one is no more than, also means less than. So keep an eye out for those. Those ones are kind of tricky. Finally, we have is greater than or equal to, which can be just said is greater than or equal to. Or it also has a tricky way. If I say is at least, that means that the smallest it could be, or it could be more, so it's greater than or equal to. And is no less than also gives us trouble sometimes because that means it could be greater than it. So keep those in mind. You want to look back to this table at times when you're working on your homework. So looking at just these expressions, we would need to simplify them in order to figure out which symbol to use. So go ahead and work these out and then turn it back on and check your answers. Okay, on the first one, you should have said 23 minus 14 is 9, and 9 is greater than 6. So you should have the arrow pointing towards the 6. The next one over here, 5 times 12 is 60, and 60 is less than 70. That's what your sign should look like. 19 minus 3 is 16, and 16 is less than 17. And 4 times 50, 15 is 60 also, and this time 60 is greater than 50. So you just want to make sure you can get your arrows pointing in the right directions as we move into some algebra. So an algebraic inequality is an inequality that contains a variable. We use x a lot, but there's a lot of different variables that can be used. So I have 3 word sentences here that I want written as inequalities. Go ahead and try these, and then you can turn it back on and check how you did. Okay, the first one says the number q, so I write down q, plus 5, so I write plus 5, is greater than or equal to. Here's my greater than or equal to sign, negative 7.9. So that's how you would translate this sentence into an inequality. Let's try the next one. The number x is at most. So the most it could be is negative 10, so I would say it's less than or equal to negative 10. At most is on our table as one of them for less than or equal to. Okay, the final one, twice the number y. To write that, you would write 2y is more than, that's a greater than symbol, negative 5 halves. Okay, so there you have just writing your inequalities. Now, when you have an inequality, sometimes you need to find out what the solution is, and sometimes they'll ask if something is a solution. So a solution is a number that makes the inequality true. So we have some problems here where they want you to know if it's true. So here he says, tell whether negative 2 is a solution to each inequality. My first inequality is y minus 5 is greater than or equal to negative 6. So what we're going to do is take the negative 2 and plug it in for y. So y becomes negative 2. I still have minus 5 is greater than or equal to negative 6. And negative 2 minus 5 is negative 7. So then I have to ask myself, is negative 7 bigger or greater or equal to negative 6? And since it's further on the number line, it's actually smaller. So my answer would be no. Negative 2 is not a solution to that. Try the next one and then turn it back on to check. Okay, on this problem, Mine's missing an x, but it's on your paper. I would take negative 2 and plug it in for x, so I have negative 5.5 times negative 2. And I want to know if that's less than 14. Well, negative times negative is a positive, so I have a positive 11 is less than positive 14. And that's a true statement. So if it's true, then I know that the number I plugged in is a solution. So yes, negative 2 is a solution. Try these next two and then turn on your recorder to see how you did. Okay, this one wanted to plug in negative 5 to see if it's a solution. So I'll plug in negative 5 for x. Negative 5 plus 12 is greater than 7. Well, negative 5 plus 12, is 7. So I actually have 7 on both sides with a greater than symbol. Is 7 greater than 7? It is not. If I had an equal sign under it, like greater than or equal to, then it would have been a solution. Finally, we're going to plug in here. Negative 5 divided by 2.5. Is that greater than or equal to negative 3? Well, working this out, I get a negative 2. Is negative 2 bigger or greater than negative 3? Since it's further to the right on the number line, it is. So that is a solution. When you're finding out if something's a solution, you plug it in to see if it works. Okay, finally, we're going to learn how to graph them. Because the solution set is a set of all solutions of an inequality, and it can be shown by graphing it on a number line. Because if I have y is greater than negative 6, how many numbers are bigger than negative 6? Well, there's an infinite number of numbers that are bigger than negative 6, so we can never tell each answer, so we show it on a graph. Step number 1 is to draw a number line. So I've got my number line here. Step number 2 is to use the appropriate scale. I wouldn't want to start at 0 if I was graphing 45. Here I'm graphing negative 6, so I want to make sure negative 6 is somewhere on it. And then I would just put some numbers to the side of it, just to make sure I can show you where I am. You don't need to draw a lot of numbers in. Step number 3 is important. We need to now decide if we're going to have an open or closed circle. So if the graph is open, it means you're using just a less than sign or a greater than sign, and you would have an open circle because it cannot actually equal that point. It just gets really close to it, so we don't shade it in. If it has a line underneath it, less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, you're going to have a closed circle because it actually can equal that point. One way to remember it is if it takes longer to draw a line under the equal sign, it takes longer to shade in the circle. Use what you need to think about that. So I would go to negative 6, and I would see it's a less than or equal, greater than or equal to sign, so I know I'm going to shade it in. And finally, step number 4 is to draw an arrow to show the less than or greater than. Now you can just look at this and say, okay, it's pointing to the right, so I'm going to shade everything to the right. Or you can think about what numbers are greater than negative 6. Or you could, as it says here, test a point. To test a point, you would pick a point on one side of it. Let's say I'm going to pick 0. And I would say, is 0 a solution to this? Well, is 0 greater than or equal to negative 6? It is, so I would know that I need to shade everything on the side with a 0. And that's how you graph an inequality. So your homework now is to go on to page 128 through 129, and you need to do 1 through 25, the odds, and then you need to do number 26. Check those, and then get on to Schoology and take homework quiz 4.1. We'll see you next time.